Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. Hope you're doing really well. Lots to talk about tonight. And we're going to start off talking about Saul Niguez, but we've got an update on Sancho. We'll also be talking about Dembele. We're talking about the Premier League and a few other things as well. Kai Havertz, Rabiot as well. So lots and lots to talk about. But first of all, I tell you what. I think Mrs. Goldbridge deserves a bit of a like. Have you checked this? Have you checked this out? This is lockdown haircut time, and I'm very happy with it. I mean, very happy with it. I've had haircuts in the past done at home, and they're a bloody joke. But it's even got the razor track in it as well. She's never cut hair before. Looked at a few YouTube videos and did that, and you look, it's very good. It's very, very good. Anyway, let's start off about Saul Niguez, because this is your channel, and we can't duck certain topics. And I've been noticing it for about the last week and a half now in the live comments. Saul Niguez deal done. Talk about Saul Niguez, Mark. Saul Niguez deal done. Talk about Saul Niguez, Mark. That's enough of that, but you know what I mean. And I saw it again today. I'm like, we're not buying Saul Niguez. I know we're not signing Saul Niguez. I think a lot of you know we're not signing Saul Niguez. But why do people think we're signing Saul Niguez? Well, again, there's a story today. Manchester Evening News have spoken about it. Some other outlets have talking about it. It's not their source. They're quoting a website in Spain, which I've done a bit of research on today. But the headline at the moment is the 70 million signing of Saul Niguez is practically done. And this is why we're seeing it in the live comments. This is why it keeps popping up. And to me, I'm like, this ain't happening. Why do we keep seeing it? But to be fair to those people who are seeing it and believing it, it is out there. And people are talking about it. Where it comes from has absolutely no credibility. So this is a website called Todo Figes or something like that. I'd never heard of them before. They are getting quoted quite a lot. They also said that Dembele and Cavani were linked to Inter. But then on the 12th of May, they said a 70 million deal to United. In February, they were saying that he'll play for Chelsea. And in last October, they said that we were signing Dembele in January. So they do come out with a hell of a lot of articles. Some people would substitute that articles for crap, but they are not and do not have any credibility yet. So you cannot say that they're as good as a David Ornstein because they just don't have anything. You can't even say they're as good as the Daily Star because they don't have anything. They don't have anything. They don't have... Sometimes they quote people, sometimes it's that people that they've been told. And we're not signing, we're not close to signing, we're not nearly signing, we've not have signed, we're not in for Saul Niguez. He's a fantastic player and I'd love him to be coming to Manchester United, but it's nonsense. It's a nonsense story that, unfortunately, I'm now talking about when I don't want to, because a lot of people have asked me to talk about it, I suppose to provide some clarity. But it isn't people's fault when it keeps getting put out in the British media. And they print the story and then they sort of ridicule it. And you think, well, why print the story? Because you know it's crap, so why are you printing the story? Even Manchester Evening News said, it's funny how he's available for 70 million when he's got a £130 million release clause and United aren't actually looking for him at the moment, or words to that effect. And you think, well, you just printed the story. It's your big headline. Saul Niguez complete, almost done. And I know they're aggregating the news. I suppose that's what we're doing now. But ultimately, you can't even gauge the credibility of this website because it has none. It's never got anything right. So we're not in for Saul Niguez. If they get it right, we'll all have to go, oh, that's a new outlet that's good. And it is a Spanish website. And Saul Niguez does play in Spain. So I suppose you've got to sort of cover it a little bit. But where Saul Niguez, Manchester Evening News are right. He's got a £130 million release clause. Why are they selling him for 70 million? He seems quite satisfied at Atletico Madrid as well. I think he's got a lifetime contract there. They're still in the Champions League. I mean, I suppose the most simplistic thing to say is, how can we almost completely have done or practically done a deal for Saul Niguez when nobody knows the value of a player at the moment, and nobody's going to know the value of a player for 3 months? So how can you practically do any deal? Because to practically do a deal, you've got to have agreed a fee, and we haven't agreed a fee. And I don't, there may well be talks going on with Saul Niguez, and I would love it as much as you would love it, but we ain't signing Saul Niguez. We're not signing Saul Niguez unless Pogba goes, and I don't think Pogba's going anyway. I think our priority is Jadon Sancho. So that's where it is with Saul Niguez at the moment. But all deals are on hold, as Dylan said. They are. You can't agree a deal with somebody at the moment because you just don't know what the value of them are. We spoke about United not wanting to spend any more than 70 million on Sancho this morning, and I think that will be the case. And it could come down again, and it could come down so much that Dortmund say it's not worth us selling him. We'll keep him for a year. So that's it's all right. The value drop. I think we would all love to be operating in the transfer window we had before the lockdown, where we just paid the 100 million for Sancho. I don't think there's any United fan who cares about paying 100 million pound for Sancho. If anything, it's getting harder to buy him the lower the value comes down, because at some point Dortmund will say it's just not worth us doing it. So. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Sancho is the player that we want. I think Jude Bellingham's the player that we want, and anything beyond that depends on whether Pogba goes. And I don't think Pogba's looking to go. Well, I think he's looking to go. I just don't think he will be able to go. So we'll see what happens on that. Interestingly enough, I don't know whether many of you watched the Dortmund game this afternoon. They beat Wolfsburg 2-0. Sancho got an assist. He's now got 30 assists, I think, in the German league so far. He only came on for the last 25 minutes. He still looks a bit, unfit, a bit rough around the edges compared to what he's like when he's firing. But I think he's been carrying an injury, and it's hard to get fit when you're not having as much pre-season as they would normally have. And I say pre-season, it's not a pre-season, is it? They're finishing a season, but it feels like they've had longer than they would have in a close season off. So he needs to get a bit sharper, but he showed his quality and intelligence to run it to the edge of the box and then just play Hakimi in, and that was the second goal. It was game over. Looking forward to seeing whether he's involved against Bayern on Tuesday night. I don't know whether he'll start or not, but look, he's a player that we want to bring to United. But more interestingly enough is Mr. Honigstein, who writes for The Athletic. He's a German expert. He was saying that he thinks Dortmund will sell one player this summer, and it will be Jadon Sancho. So look, Is it breaking news? No, it's not. But it's another tick in the box of Sancho leaving Dortmund and United being at the front of the queue for that. So that's encouraging. Another player that played very, very well today, Kai Havertz. Another 2 goals for him. He's got 4 goals in the last 5 days, I think, because he played Monday night, didn't he? So 6 days. And I watched a bit of him today in the game against Leverkusen and Mönchengladbach. He got 2 goals. They won the game 3-1. Leverkusen are a good side, and Kai Havertz is going to be a fantastic player. And, you see United being linked to him, Chelsea being linked to him. I think in relation to Kai Havertz, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. We ain't signing Kai Havertz. We don't need that player. He's an attacking midfielder. We don't. Where would he fit in? Bruno's playing that role. I mean, are you going to put another attacking midfielder on the wing again, like we did with Mata and Kagawa and Mkhitaryan? No, if you bought Havertz, you'd have to build a team around him in the attacking midfield position, and we've got Bruno for that. So we're not signing Havertz. The second reason we're not signing Havertz is how would we afford Havertz? He'd cost a lot of money. The third reason we're not signing Havertz, and Chelsea aren't signing Havertz, and Liverpool and Man City aren't signing Havertz, is because he's going to go to Bayern Munich. This is absolutely 100% the sort of deal that Bayern Munich have been doing for years, and it's the reason Bayern Munich keep winning the title. Because what they're going to do is, he's German, he's young, he's at a club in the Bundesliga, they're going to hoover him up to Bayern Munich. He will go to Bayern Munich. He might go to Real Madrid, but Real Madrid can't afford him because they can't even afford Pogba. Havertz is going to go to Real Madrid. He's like Pogba, he's like Sancho, he's got 2 years left on his contract, so this is the summer he's going to move. If he stays, he's going to go very cheap next year. He might stay for a year. Sancho might stay for a year. Pogba might stay for a year. If they all stay for a year, they'll go very cheap next summer where they want to go. But he'll be going to Bayern Munich. He's a fantastic player. And I really do like Havertz, but it's not a deal for Manchester United. It's one of those players who's absolutely fantastic that we're just not going to sign. And Chelsea aren't going to get him either. He's not going to come to the Premier League. But he's a fantastic... He's only 20 years of age. And I think he's going to be a superstar. But I can see him taking the Muller role at Bayern Munich. I think that's exactly where he's going to go. Also talk from Gazzetta dello Sport about Adrien Rabiot's mother, who is his agent, talking to Manchester United and Everton. This worries me a little bit. I don't know about you lot, but this worries me a little bit about Rabiot, because he's Juventus's player, and any deal we do with Juventus automatically brings in Pogba. Also, I don't know. Rabiot, I just get a bad feeling about. He could be a fantastic signing, but I get a bad feeling about Rabiot. He could have come to us last summer. He chose to go to Juventus. It's not worked there, so now he fancies coming to us. On the other hand, the fact that Ancelotti wants him at Everton suggests that he is a good player, and we know he's a good player, and there is potential there. I mean, I think he's not even 25 yet, is he? Or he's around that age. So he's definitely got something about him. But there's just something. I've said it before, and I'm not going to dwell on it too much. But this is the sort of player that I don't think Manchester United should be going for anymore. The risky player, the player that could disrupt the dressing room, the player that could be disruptive in the media. I just don't think we need that sort of a player. But some of you might disagree. Hear me out, because this may sound nuts. What if we offer Dortmund 60 million plus Lingard and sell-on clause for Sancho? Call me crazy, but I think Lingard can be effective in Germany, says Adams. Well, I mean, I don't know whether Dortmund would value Lingard, and but it would be a good move for Lingard. I think it would be a good move, and I think that there is. I just don't know what player there is in Lingard. Is he good enough to play for Dortmund? I mean, do we not, with Lingard, do we not just get sucked in even ourselves like Ollie does with this whole brand Lingard? Oh yeah, Jesse, we all like Jesse. He's great. And actually, when was he ever great? You know, he's great for 2 months and he's been bang average for a long time. I don't even know if he's good enough for Dortmund to want to take him. I'd like to do that deal, but I don't know whether Dortmund would take him. Best biscuit to have with your brew marks, is Josh Bowwater, Hobnob. Lingard won't go to Germany, says Anmar. And remember, Lingard's got a lot of issues off the pitch in relation to, I think he's bringing up he's got his own kid, but I think he brings up his brother and sister as well. So uprooting and going abroad. I think he wants to stay in Manchester. I think he wants to stay at Manchester United. I just think we can't be that much of a, you know, you can't just do things to be nice. We're a competitive football club, and you've got to have the best players, haven't you? So, but I don't know. I mean, United as well. You know, we've still got Sanchez at the club, and yeah, Lingard's much more of an asset to the club than Sanchez is. But I don't think. So hopefully, we'll move Sanchez on. I think Lingard's better than a Championship player, Ewan. I think he is better than that, but I don't know at what level. I've always felt that Everton would be a good deal for Lingard. I think that would be and ultimately he might be good enough for Everton. He might not be good enough for Everton, but I think that's the club he should try to rediscover, because if he did well at Everton, he'd probably get his place back in the England squad, which he desperately wants, of course. He played in the World Cup semi-final, didn't he? So yeah, I think a move to an Everton would do him well. He's got to play first team football. That's what he's got to do. I've got a horrible feeling we will be priced out of Sancho deal, and we will end up with Rabiot and Douglas Costa for Pogba. We don't like spending, says Sean Turner. Well, that would be a bad summer, wouldn't it? You don't get Sancho and you sell Pogba. Welcome to Lance Gray, the latest member of the United Stand Members Club. Yeah, that would be a terrible summer. And the thing is, I'm not going to sit here and say that's not going to happen, because I've sat here many a May over the last 5 years and said this is going to happen, that won't happen. And then you come out of the summer going, oh, if you told me that in May, I'd have cried. So, you know, what if we did not, you know, what are the chances of us not getting Sancho and Pogba leaving? As a percentage, I don't know. It's not impossible. It's not impossible. I think there's more of a chance that Pogba stays and we sign Sancho, but it's not impossible that Pogba goes and we don't get Sancho, is it? You know, you've always got to be realistic. But I still think the realistic thing is that Pogba will stay and Sancho will go. But you don't know. You don't know. What else have we got? Topical stuff that we need to talk about. I'm going to read you a quote actually. This is one of the best things I've read all day. So this is from Shawn Dyche, the Burnley manager. He says, if a player has decided returning is not for them, I presume he's sitting in the house every day, not going out. If they are not just staying in, then the obvious question would be, if you feel okay to go out, then why aren't you training? And I thought that, from a Premier League manager, was always going to be, I don't want to use the word divisive, but it was always going to evoke emotion. I was talking about this morning. But I think he's absolutely spot on. If a player decides they're not going to train because they don't feel it's safe, I presume they're sat in the house all day and they're not going out. Because if they are going out, then the obvious question would be, is why are you not going to training? And I heard some people replying saying, well, it's not the same, is it? Going down your local shop is not the same as running around on a football pitch with 22 other people. No, it's not. Because the 22 people that you're running around with, you know they haven't got the disease or the virus. But the shops that you're touching and walking around in, you don't know who's got it in that room because no one's been tested. So actually, running around on a football pitch with people who don't have it is safer than going down your local Tesco. And I thought Shawn Dyche was absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. And put it across in a very precise and blunt way that, to me, will be challenged, but is correct. It is correct. But also, to be fair and to be even-handed, because we've got to be, you don't know what these players who don't want to play issue is. Are they just flat refusing to play, or are they being spoken to like that and saying, well, are you staying in the house all the time? Are you going to the shops? Well, why aren't you going to training then? So, but it's interesting that a Premier League manager has said that. Anyone remember James Wilson, 25 years old now and leading the line at Salford? Seems a shame. Always thought he was an okay finisher, says Josh Bowards. I remember James Wilson. He was sort of a young player coming through before Rashford, when we hadn't really had any good young players coming through for a while. And we were sort of overdue one. And I think at the moment we've got a few coming through, haven't we? I tell you what, I must say this. Enjoy this. Rashford, Greenwood, and anyone else who's going to come through, whether it's Garner or whatever. Because it doesn't actually happen. And I think you get greedy when it happens a lot. I remember when we had Scholes and Beckham and Neville and Giggs and Butt. And you almost got greedy. Oh, yeah, we produce world-class youth players. And then it didn't really happen for 25 years. And now we've got potentially Greenwood, Rashford and maybe a couple more coming through. But we haven't had that for a while. And you're right about James Wilson. We got excited about James Wilson because we wanted him to be one of those exciting new players. And ultimately, he just wasn't good enough. He had a few injuries, but he just wasn't good enough. Tom Lawrence is having a better player career than James Wilson, says Reddy. And James Wilson was better than an okay finisher, says Arco. Gosh, I disagree. If he was better than an okay finisher, where's his career at Manchester United or a Premier League club then? He's playing for Salford in League One. He was in Scotland. He's been on loan. He's not a superb finisher, because if he was, he would be in the top league. I think an okay finisher is someone who plays in League One. I'm sorry if you don't like that explanation, but for me, an okay finisher is somebody who's playing in the lower leagues, which is where James Wilson is. If he was a fantastic finisher, he'd be playing in the Premier League, wouldn't he? So I don't think he was ever good enough. I don't. I wish the lad all the best, but this is what we're talking about with Lingard, isn't it? I mean, this is a high-end competitive football club, and to win things like Man City and Liverpool are, you've got to be high-end. You've got to have top-quality players, and it's hard to produce youth players that then become Manchester United players, because we're Manchester United and the levels are high, and that's why with Rashford and Greenwood, we're very lucky. Would you take £80 million for Pogba as long as all of it goes into the kitty for an able replacement? No doubts about his class, but psychologically it would be a closed chapter and a hard squad reset. If Pogba wants to go and somebody gave us 80 million, I'd take it. Yeah. But if Pogba wants to stay, I think the easiest thing is to get him on a new contract and keep him. Truly Balls HD. Hey Mark, is there any opportunities to make videos, podcasts or other content for the United Stand? Keep up the great work. Love the channel. Maybe go through the website, mate. We are always looking for writers to get involved if they're looking to start off your career in that sort of area. UnitedStand.com. And Gavin Chalmers says, realistically, are we going to have to hope to get the best out of Sanchez? We'll never be able to get rid of him. Could he become good again after the break? No. And I say this is my opinion here. I don't want to... You make your own mind up. My mind's been made up about Alexis Sanchez. I went to watch him at Old Trafford against Southampton over a year ago. And his mind is still good, but his body's not quick enough. Pogba played a couple of balls to him, and he actually did the give and go. But he couldn't get there. He's lost a yard or two of pace. Definitely a yard. So he's not going to get that back. And apparently, speaking to Arsenal fans, he'd already lost it before we bought him. They were aware of that. So he's never going to be good enough. He's never going to get his ability back. He's a bad influence at the club because he's the best played player. I mean, look, I suppose what I'm trying to say in a bad way is he's never going to be the best paid. He's never going to be the best player in the Premier League again. Those days are gone. But he's always going to be the best paid player in the Premier League. So you cannot bring a player back into this side that you're just going to keep giving chances to who's not good enough and hope that he does the little bit here and there while the whole team knows he's on more money than them. It just won't work. They're human beings. They're not robots. And I tell you what, if I was a Manchester United player, if I was Bruno Fernandes, or I was Marcus Rashford or Anthony Martial, and I've got Alexis Sanchez on the pitch, and he's not really as good as everybody else, but he's playing, and he's on more money than everyone else, I'm sorry, I'm going to get a bit pissed off. he's a negative impact. And some people think that's me going, well, he's a negative impact. He's an arsehole. I don't know whether he's an arsehole. I think Ollie's alluded to the fact that it might be him who's the arsehole. When he talked about arseholes this week, it can only be one of two players for me, Sanchez and Lukaku. Could be both. I think it's Sanchez. But he can't be around the team. He's the best paid player. He's not very good. And I don't think he wants to be here anyway. So I think, are we moving forward as a club or are we not? And I think with Alexis Sanchez, if we're going to give him another chance and try and implement him into the team, we're not moving forward on the vision that we're meant to be moving on. I am Neil says, hi Mark, who do you see Ollie choosing between for free kicks and penalties, Bruno or Marcus? Also, have you watched La Casa de Papel or Money Heist? I haven't watched either of those as of yet. And I would put Bruno Fernandes on free kicks because I don't think Marcus Rashford's very good at free kicks. I think that goal he scored against Chelsea, I think statistically Rashford's free kicks are pretty low, whereas I think Bruno is an architect. I think sometimes he can do what he did with Martial, where they think he's going to shoot and he scoops it over the top and Martial scored. Or I think he can shoot. And I think Rashford can't do that. He hasn't got the guile to do something a bit clever. Rashford will shoot at goal and try and do a Ronaldo free kick every time. And sometimes, very rarely, he'll do what he did against Chelsea. Most of the time, he'll put it over the bar or into the wall. And I think with the players we've got, like Harry Maguire, Anthony Martial, when we get a free kick in and around the box, we shouldn't always be shooting anyway. We should be looking at putting a cross in or trying something clever. So for me, it's got to be Bruno. I'm better than Sanchez, says Jesse Lingard 14. Imagine if it was really him. And thoughts on Memphis' buyback clause in his contract, says Truly Balls HD. Well, Lyon are very interesting. I said this morning that I think Moussa Dembele is going to Chelsea. Lyon are not in Europe next season. They're in the French league that's been cancelled, so they're going to lose money, and they may need to sell players this summer, and they may need to sell them for cheaper than they normally would have done. Moussa Dembele will leave. Will Memphis Depay leave? Well, if Memphis Depay leaves, Manchester United will get a phone call and say, do you want him? Because we've not got a buyback clause, we've got a first refusal. And a first refusal means that if Man City offer 50 million for Memphis Depay, then Lyon have to ring us up and say, Man City have offered £50 million for Memphis Depay. Do you want to match it? And if so, it's up to Memphis if he comes back to you. It's the same as what Man City have got with Sancho. Now, of course, Memphis can say he doesn't want to come back to United, and United can say they don't want him either, which I think is what would happen. But in this market, you just never know. I think the more interesting thing that we've had that actually may not be any good anymore was the Wilfried Zaha one, the 25% one. So if Wilfried Zaha ever leaves Palace, we get 25% of his fee. I think that was a brilliant bit of business. But unfortunately, with the financial crisis collapsing, that 25% might not be as much as it was going to be. Mark, would you rather keep Pogba and not sign Sancho, or sign Sancho and sell Pogba? Also, do you think we're just signing Jude so City don't? I don't think City are in for Jude Bellingham, are they? I think that's part of United's youth recruitment, which has been quite good recently. Would you rather keep Pogba and not sign Sancho, or sign Sancho and sell Pogba? I'd probably sell Pogba. Yeah, I'd probably. If you're asking me, do I want to keep Pogba and not get Sancho, or do I want to sell Pogba and get Sancho? I'm going to get Sancho because he's 20 years of age and he's going to be a superstar. Pogba is 27. He's a fantastic player, but we don't even know if he wants to be here, and he might continue to be inconsistent. So I think Sancho offers you the better value in the future. But I hope that Pogba commits his future to Manchester United. Please do smash a like on the video if you're watching, and subscribe if you are new. I mean, I think the haircut deserves a like. I'm very impressed with it. To do that at home, that's, you've got plonkers doing bloody. I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm going to shave off my hair and look an idiot. So imagine if I'd done that. I'd look a right prat. I haven't been keeping up to date with transfers. What's it looking like for United, says HRM. Well, I think Sancho's the one that we are working on and waiting for the end of the season to complete. I think Jude Bellingham is another one that we are working on. I think Bellingham's going to get announced first, by the way, because I don't think the Championship is going to complete. And it doesn't make sense to wait till August to complete a deal that could be done next month. So I think Bellingham will be announced soon. And I think that if he's coming to United, by the way. And then I think Sancho's going to have to wait until the end. Beyond that, I think if I was ranking transfer deals for United this summer, predicting it, I think Bellingham's first, Sancho's second, and then Pogba, whatever's happening with Pogba will be sorted. If Pogba goes, then I think there'll be supplementary transfers after, probably Grealish. But if Pogba stays, that might be our business done. Mark, when does the transfer window open? La 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 la. When does the transfer window open? La 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 la. Per Eric Klassen, thank you for that. I added the theme. When does the transfer window open? June the 1st. But it won't open on June the 1st because football is in a mess at the moment with domestic leagues not being completed. So I don't know what they're going to do about the transfer. I have not heard what's happening with the transfer window. You can't really do it while football's being played. So I think it will open up in August. But whether it will be a transfer window that stays open, I don't know. I mean, look, I've got no answers, really. I don't know what's happening with football. I don't know whether the Premier League's coming back. It looks like it's going to happen, but I don't know whether it will. And if the if the Premier League gets completed in July, and then the Europa League and the Champions League gets done in August, and then they start a new season in September, where do you do transfers? Because wherever you do transfers, there's going to be games going on. So I don't know what they're going to do with the maybe you do open the transfer window in June and just say any transfers that happen won't happen till next season. But then it's going to be very disruptive on the players that are still playing. But that's going to happen anyway. So maybe it happens in August. But then some players will be playing in the Champions League or the Europa League. So I don't know where the transfer window is going to fit in, because they seem to want to start next season in September. But then if we get a second spike, it will get all shut down again anyway. I think football's in a very fragile state, as we may well have all predicted. How we get rid of Lingard, Jones and Pereira, and for how much has Man United, Herbert? And we need to do everything to keep Hannibal Mabry because his potential is frightening and not let him slip away like Gomez, said Adams. They won't let him slip away. And we've only just got hold of him, haven't we? Didn't we buy him like a year ago or something? We won't let him go. And I did know that Robbie Savage's son plays for the under-18s. Yes, Josh Bowerwater, I did. Will Alexis Sanchez come back, says Aspect. What are we thinking? What are we thinking about that? And how have you gone in? I'm still in the Blood Brothers tournament for FIFA Truly Balls HD. I've got a game tomorrow, round 3, so I might be going out. I don't know. I think Sanchez will come back and then go out on loan again. I don't see how he can be allowed to be near the squad because I think it's just too disruptive. I think his wage is a massive problem. Mario, says we need to destroy Sanchez by letting him train with the youth. He then has the chance to keep his salary or move to a club with less salary, but he can play. You could play hardball with him, but I mean, the thing is, you talk about business and you talk about loss of earnings and you talk about a financial crash. Alexis Sanchez was our own financial crash, really. 400 grand a week. I still think he's got 2.5 years left on his contract. So nobody's going to buy him. No one's going to pay him them wages. So we're paying him 400 grand a week to Sanchez for the next 2.5 years. It's one of the worst. I mean, one of the stupidest deals in football history. And who signs that off? Was it Woodward? Was it Mourinho? Was it the Glazers? Whoever signed that off. One of the worst bits of business in history. It's awful. And we didn't scout him properly either. We didn't even scout him properly. Manchester United financially stable and players will notice, says Tito the Fool. And anything planned for when we reach 700k subs? Big milestone quickly approaching, says Josh Bowerwater. We're not quite there yet, mate. It's slowed down a lot, obviously, because we're in lockdown. But please subscribe if you're new. We'll have to think about something the closer we get. And Turkish team might go for him, says Zilla United. Chinese club might go for him, says Graham Howes. But it's where he wants to go, isn't it? Apparently he wants to go back to Chile. There'll be no money there for him. Remy says it's Woodward's fault. Is Sancho worth the money, says Roberto. I think so, yeah. I think you're talking about a player who's got way more potential than what he's doing at the moment. And what he's doing at the moment is pretty exciting. So, yeah, I think Sancho's worth the money or worth the risk or whatever you want to call it. Definitely, yeah. Doesn't mean he won't flop or whatever you want to call it. That's always a possibility. But I think he's such a driven player when you look at his career. Going from Manchester to Dortmund at a very young age. It showed a tenacity in his career mentality that I think he's made of the right stuff. And I think he will be a success. And I think he's hungry. And I think he wants to be one of the world's best. And I think that's the sort of player that you want at United. So I don't think anyone would criticise us for doing that deal. They might be jealous of it. And they might hope it goes wrong. But I think it's the right deal to do. And I think Manchester United's the right place for him to play. I do. Adams says, every time I hear that derogatory word called Sanchez, I feel like calling the police because he's stealing from us. Can you blame him for signing that deal though, mate? I mean, he was going to the thing about Alexis Sanchez is he was going to Man City. And if he'd signed for Man City, he would have won a Premier League title 4 months later. He was going to Man City. And you know why he came to Manchester United? Because his agent said, have you seen what we're willing to pay you? And he went, really? Yeah. Where do I sign? Best paid player in the Premier League. I'm going to Manchester United. We literally did what Man City do. We got a player to come to us, not because we were the better club, but for money. That's what we did, and it backfired. Peter Brink makes a good point. He says the January transfer window is during playing time as well, so why can't this one be disruptive? Maybe, but nothing new. Well, I think you're right, Peter. I think that's going to have to happen. Absolutely have to happen. Rashford or Haaland, says RB. Very different players. Haaland's a goal scorer. Rashford's now a left winger, isn't he? And I think he suits that position, Rashford. Dortmund would never take Sanchez. No, we wouldn't be able to do that. Do you eat chips, says Alfie Edwards? Yes, I had some chips with my Chinese takeaway about an hour ago. It's very nice, thank you. Kay Havertz needed. No, he's not. He's not. We don't need him. We can't afford him. He's not going to come to us anyway. But we don't need him. He plays where Bruno plays. You can't play with Bruno and Havertz unless you're going to put one of them on the wing. And what's the point? So we don't need that sort of player. It would be a luxury player, and you don't buy luxury players until you've solved the problems that you essentially need players. Sanchez would get his wages at China. Yeah, I mean they're paying Igalo's on £300,000 a week. It's whether he wants to go there, and I don't think he will. Sanchez flew in from London with Shane McMahon's ring entrance music playing in the background, says Josh Bowater. And Brits Abroad 1354 says, hi Mark, get your reasons for saying United won't sign Saul. In reality, if United want to seriously challenge again, then we must buy either Saul or Ndidi. No, what I'm saying is a lot of people keep saying we've agreed a deal with Saul Niguez and we haven't. The story is not credible. We're not in for Saul Niguez at the moment. That's the story. Do I think we should sign Saul Niguez? Yes, I would like us to sign him, but at the moment we're not in for him, and we won't be in for him unless Pogba leaves. So that's what I'm saying about that. I would like us to buy him. Would you take Guerrero from Dortmund at United as Mason Ag? No, I wouldn't. And I know where you're going with this, but I wouldn't. I'm very happy with Luke Shaw and Brandon Williams down the left-hand side. So I'm happy with what we've got, and I don't think left-back is a priority position. I think you don't... Again, it's a luxury signing. I'm not saying he's not better than our left-backs, but we need a right winger. We need a striker. We need two midfielders, one of which needs to be a CDM. We potentially need a centre-back. We don't need a left-back at the moment ahead of all those positions, in my opinion. I'd love Partey, says Illa United. Yeah, and also, that's another reason why I don't think we'll get Saul Niguez, because I think Thomas Partey's going to leave, isn't he? Shaw or Williams? It's Luke Shaw for me at the moment, but in a year's time it might be Williams if he keeps his development going. Is George Best the best United player ever talent-wise, says Josh Wilson? I've never seen him play, mate, so I can't say that, but for those who have seen him play, they'd probably say he's the best talent we've ever had, yeah. Which academy player do you think won't make it? Chong for me, says Man United Herbert. Gomez for me, because I don't think he's going to be here next season. Could we not try and swap Igalo for Sanchez? One is money driven, which is fine, and the other loves the club. Would be a good deal all around. I would do that swap deal. I'd say you take Sanchez wages, we'll take Igalo. Sanchez is worth more than Igalo in the market, but let's just do a straight swap. That would be the swap deal of the century. I would love that to happen. Literally, Igalo's on 300k a week. Sanchez is on 400k a week. Sanchez is worth more than Igalo. Swap them. All right, we lose a little bit of money, but we'll never get that money anyway. I'd love to do that. I'm all for that. Absolutely all for that. Please smash a like on the video if you're watching live. It'd be great to get to 1,000 likes. I think China have got a wage cap though, says Abdul. Yeah, I heard they have, and I think it's 300k. But Sanchez ain't going to get that anywhere else, is he? Unless he just wants to see his career out at United. In which case, if he won't go and do something for his career, maybe you do stick him in the youth and just let him earn his money and never let him near the first team. Peter Brink says, are we title contenders with just the addition of Sancho? No. We're not. We might be, but I don't think we are, because I think we need more than that. I do. Anyway, it's Saturday night. I'm off to go and watch a film, so I'm not going to dwell too long. We've got Ricky and Adam on tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. I really look forward to those shows. I'll be live in the morning with the Sunday news. Make sure you join me for that. Have a fantastic Saturday evening. You've deserved it. It's been a tough week. It always is at the moment, isn't it? And I will see you tomorrow. Have a great evening. See you soon.